mahalo, Auntie Wendy, for being back with the Cool Project again. You know, I mean, last year we were just talking stories again for the first time, meeting each other and getting to know one another. And we kind of just started to just voila out, even after the interview, you know, because there's so many connections that we've had. And you told me that I should come back to experience Festivals of Aloha. And I'm back, you know. And
mahalo for coming back.
And to be honest, I just got to mahalo you because I feel uplifted, you know. So I want to say mahalo for putting on such a such a meaningful and intentional event that really touches upon not only people from outside but also the community, you know. And I think that's why it's so important that we have individuals like you who are doing all these cultural programs. But before we kind of go into that, can you just introduce yourself a little bit so that the people who haven't heard about you yet?
Okay, no. So I'm Auntie Wendy, or AKA Auntie Mopsy.
Yeah.
And I'm the Hawaiian director of, I'm the director of Hawaiian Programs here at the Four Seasons Resort. Yeah, and I've been here now with the Four Seasons for 14 years. Yeah. You know, and I love when I meet new people, I always tell them I don't feel like I come to work anymore. Yeah. And I really don't. And it's because I love what I do. And they always ask me, well, what do you do? And I said, I share the Hawaiian culture. Yeah. Simple as that.
You know, and what does it mean to you for sharing the Hawaiian culture, especially here at Four Seasons? How has your role helped you to do just that?
Well, you know, for me, it's always been very important of coming from a place of authenticity. Mm. Really, really important, because you have a lot of things that people do because they think this is what the tourists want to see. Yeah. Or this is the perception because they've seen this on the TV. But that's not what it is. I think we do no justice sharing those kinds of things. For us, it's all about sharing not what we see in the books, but sharing what we grew up with. Mm-hmm. What did we learn growing up in the house from mom and dad and from Tutu and everybody else? Yeah, I look back and I always think I never knew that those were life lessons, really, that we carry through all the years. And when you become adult, you're the ones now. We're the vessels that start teaching the younger ones, because it was just growing up. It was just living life every single day, not realizing that those were lessons. And now we're doing the same thing. We're teaching the young ones too, So, you know, very important.
How has culture come into part of your life? You know, and I know we talked before about this and everything, but you know, for people who haven't heard our last conversation, like how has culture become part of your life?
I don't think it's become a part of my life. I think it's always been a part of my life. I just never realized it till I was a lot older. And I think we all do that. Yep. And I told you this before when the doctor used to tell me, he goes, Auntie, you're such a workaholic. So you have to find your passion and work your passion. A lot easier. And I said, well, how do I bring horses into the Four Seasons? Because I always thought that horses and horseback riding was a passion of mine. Not knowing that growing up in the Hawaiian culture really is my passion. Mm. But you don't, like I said, you don't realize it till you become older, because you just think that this is every day. This is life for us. But to take it one step further, it's not just the culture. For me, my passion is hula. Mm. Hula, when we say hula is life, it really is life. And so like for our Festivals of Aloha, our second night, it's called Hula is the Heartbeat. Yeah. Oh my goodness, it really is the heartbeat. Yeah, because what? Because hula is life for us.
You know, and that just kind of goes right into my next question. What was your inspiration of bringing the Festivals of Aloha to Four Seasons?
Well, you know, again, it does come back to Darryl Fujiwara. Mm-hmm. He's the executive director for Festivals of Aloha. When I first started doing the Hawaiian programs here, it was actually called Aloha Week. Mm. And I still remember starting off small, but like, okay, I don't know what to do. But I took things that I've learned in my own life. I like to call myself a Hawaiian hoarder. Anything Hawaiian, I love to collect because I learn. I keep learning. There's always more to learn. And so I love lauhala. So I have like a lauhala collection. And I have ohikapala things. And, you know, for a whole week, I did just displays of Hawaiian quilt. My mom passed down to me a beautiful Hawaiian quilt. Wow. So I put that out there. And I have a lauhala collection, and I have a kapa collection, and I have a lei collection. And we started off small. We just did that. We just had a display.
Yeah.
And every day, and because it was Aloha Week, I had 5 days worth of display. And every day we picked one of the topics there, and we had a speaker come out, or we did that activity right there in our ballroom. And then I guess it just grew from there, where Dara, I guess, kind of saw what I was doing, and he came knocking on the door and he said, "Auntie, how would you like to join in and be part of the Festivals of Aloha?" I had no idea. What is the Festivals of Aloha?
Yeah.
I know what Aloha Week was, but he said, "We're changing the name from Aloha Week, and it's now going to be called Festivals of Aloha." We sat down, we talked, started kuka kuka, and I guess the rest is history.
Yeah.
This is our 3rd annual, and next year will be our 4th, and I'm hoping to continue forever.
Yeah. You know, and I remember last year when you said I should come and experience the Festival of Aloha, and you know, I brought my ohana with me, and my kids are having a time of their life. You know, because they get to. There last night when they had the hula is the heartbeat. They're just mesmerized. They sing the keiki dancing. They see everybody dance. They hear the music, and they just couldn't stop watching. You know, even during the Auntie Hulu's falsetto
Right?
competition, even they were even impressed by the music and just in awe of everything going on. So I think it's just for me personally, and I was telling you before this, is that I just felt uplifted. You know, seeing the community come together, hearing everybody being so proud of their relative being on stage, you know,
Right.
and showing their passion, their
Right.
love for either singing or dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Even all the different, like you mentioned, all the activities that you had out there. I think my mother-in-law was up there just doing every single activity she could, you know, and she just came down, she had her hands just full of
Everything.
stuff. She was like, this is amazing, you know, because she doesn't get to be able to experience those things too often. But she loves that stuff, but she
Right.
just doesn't have access to it.
Yeah,
there she
and I
was,
think
yeah.
this is what it was all about. This is when we bring in our practitioners. And I always say this, it's not just the act of doing what we're doing, whether we're doing ohe kapala, ulana niu, or ku'ipa'i'ai. It's all about, once our kupuna teach what's going on, it's all about that conversation that comes with it.
Yeah.
Because all the practitioners that come here, all of them that I had, all Maui born, and they're kupuna. How wonderful, because I can sit for hours with kupuna
Oh, yeah.
and ask. Now, some of them are in the 80s. How wonderful, because they've grown up here in Maui. They know from their parents, multi-generational, they learn from their tutu. They can talk stories about Maui over 150 years ago. Just knowing all these generational things that came down, where did they live on Maui? Because Maui has changed. I've been here now on Maui for 37 years. And I can tell you, from the first time that we moved to Maui, my husband and I, looking back to now, big changes, big changes. Some good, some maybe not so good, but that's inevitable.
Yeah.
You know, that's going to be what they call progress. But we don't ever want to lose where we came from.
Yeah.
We always have to make sure that we acknowledge where we came from, appreciate, and who better than our kupuna to pass that kind of knowledge down to us. They're not talking to us from what they went learning in one book. They're talking to us because they heard it from their tutu, who learned it from their parents. So you got multi-generational coming down and sharing all this information. So I may be sitting there and doing ohe kapala, but I now have that opportunity to ask that other questions. Once I'm in the middle of this, now I can ask those questions. And I tell everybody who go, whether it's our employees here at the Four Seasons, how fortunate that the things that we do here, wonderful for our guests, for the community, but I love that our employees are also able to go and to learn. And when I have the time and I sit with them and I tell them, go ask the questions.
Yeah.
This is who you should be asking. Don't go look for it in a book, because they can tell you firsthand.
Yeah.
So for me, wonderful that we have these activities, but it's also a learning experience, not only about what they're doing, but about everything that they've lived through.
Yeah, and I think that's so important that we continue on these legacies,
Yes,
right? And these perpetuating the culture that has been passed down through generations, and you providing those opportunities and those moments to be able to feel and touch and hear and listen, you know, get all those senses to wake up And I think that's such a powerful thing that you can provide people who take the moment to actually sit down and listen. You know, what has working with the Four Seasons and bringing all the cultural programs, what has that felt like for you, seeing the community come in, seeing everybody being excited about what's going on here?
You know, it's amazing, and a lot of times I'll actually I'll break down with tears and stuff because it's so very emotional. To see something that just started off as a little note on a piece of paper, and then bringing it through fruition and seeing everything. I'm just very fortunate that the Four Seasons, my executive team here, has provided me with the opportunity to produce.
Yes.
You know, they say, Auntie, what do you think? Think out of the box. You know, we have these conversations. And then I plan and we do. And it really does. It takes a whole team.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very fortunate that they allow me really to come in and say, this is what I think. What do you think?
Yeah.
And then we build from there. So it's not just me. I always say it really takes a team. I think I'm very fortunate that I have a kumu, and my kumu is Kumu Kamaka Kukona. For me, he has really given me the opportunity to blossom because he has so much knowledge. And even when there's times when I don't understand, but I do have someone that I can go to. I do have someone that I feel comfortable going to that's willing to teach me. It's never no, there's always that willingness as long as I want to keep learning, which I do. I have so many resources, and Kumukamaka, of course, is my biggest. I've been with him now for 14 years. And I'm still learning.
Yeah.
There's always lessons to learn. He always goes, Auntie? And when I hear the Auntie, I'm like, oh, okay, there's a lesson somewhere in here. And that's always the case. So given the opportunities that Four Seasons has afforded me, having not only my kumu, but other kumu within the community here, and you've seen it, they all come out. How wonderful that I'm the recipient of all of this. Now, if I'm the recipient of all of this mana'o, I cannot keep that to myself. It is given, and I think they know that I come from a place of I have to share. But again, it has to be authentic. But that's what I'm getting from them. So how wonderful when I look out and I see all these people from the community, people that I haven't seen in a long time going, hey, I'm so happy that we get to come. And I think for me, when we first started talking about doing these programs here, it was very important for me learning or knowing that there's things that I would like to go to and I would like to go and experience. But sometimes like, how much costs? Wow, me and my husband, that's like $200 out of my pocket, right? And so I had talked to our execs and I had said, can we do this without charging a fee? I said, for me, my thinking was, I didn't want that to be the excuse why they don't come. So now when we say, oh, everything's complimentary, please come and enjoy. There's never an excuse, I cannot come because I cannot afford to. No, the thing is you cannot not afford to come and experience, to bring back. I saw a lot of kupuna here. I heard that when they heard the steel guitar, that brought a lot of memories back for them, as it did me, because for me, that's music from my father's time. And they were saying, oh, how wonderful. We sat down and we heard all this beautiful music. Oh, so wonderful.
You know, when I heard this, I was telling you before, my father-in-law's father played the steel guitar. But for me, whenever I hear that, I think of Uncle Pikelo out in Hana. You know, I remember when he used to come on Oahu to play music with my Ohana, and the steel guitar was always there with his guitar, and I was just like, so it took me back to those kind of
right? Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
And when everybody knew when the steel guitar comes out, it's going another level, you know. And everybody's just all excited about it because, like as you mentioned, it just takes you back a little bit, you know, and it kind of adds a little bit more of a calmness to the music, to the melody itself.
Definitely.
You know, at the Festival of Aloha, one thing that I did notice was there was people from all over Maui here, you know, and especially when we did the little ha'i contest, it was one of those things where I could feel the people feeling proud, you know. I remember at one point one of the contestants from Wailuku, and everybody was just like, "Where's Wailuku?" And everybody's like, "Wailuku," you know.
Right.
But it just shows how much people appreciated the space that they were in to, you know, to not only be proud of their relative up there, but also to just be proud of the culture itself.
Definitely.
And to seeing it within the space and seeing
It
it
just
being
felt
celebrated.
comfortable, right?
It just felt comfortable.
It just
felt
felt
like you're
comfortable,
just like
very welcoming.
hanging out, you know, like, and then especially when you had the panel of judges was amazing, you know, and having them sing on the stage and sing all
Dancing
that,
too. And
it's one of those things where I was telling my brothers, like, the fact that we didn't have to pay to see this was unreal. Like, that was a special moment. And as Daryl was talking about, it was a magical moment, because Ratel was up there singing, Auntie Hulu was up there singing, Kumukamaka was dancing with Ratel singing. It was just like, wow, this is...
No, and it wasn't even planned. You
Yeah.
just call them up and they just go.
Yeah, and you never get a moment like that again.
Exactly.
You know, but the people who were there they'll always remember it.
They will, definitely.
And I think that's so important when you have these spaces that you create here, especially at the Four Seasons, that you create these moments that people take with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like my son, who worked with the uncle who was doing the ohekapala,
Mm-hmm.
he would take that, he made an envelope, he stamped his envelope and everything, and he treasured that thing. You know, but he'll always remember that moment.
That he did that.
That he did that. And he always remember the moment where the uncle gave him the hat, because he stayed there for like 3 sessions wanting to learn how to make the fish,
the
whale,
and everything.
Yeah,
right,
he wanted to make them all of it, you know. So, hey, take a hat, you know, like you earned it. And then I have my other son who loves he kind of getting into the pa'iai. This is his first time trying pa'iai, but then he saw the poke,
And that was it.
and that's what he wanted only.
Right?
He's like, I don't want that, but I'll take that. But it's all these, like, I think that's what's so important about when you are sharing the culture and sharing these activities to perpetuate our culture, is creating those moments that leave an impression, so that when they leave to go about their life wherever they're from or go back home, they have a piece of that with them that they always remember.
And that's what we call sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sharing it, because they'll take it in. And when they leave the Four Seasons, how wonderful that they're sharing it all out there. I keep on saying, when that happens, we know that our culture is going to live on. Mm-hmm. Very, very important. Yeah. That's what it's all about.
You know, and then one thing I wanted to ask you too is, how did you feel seeing everything come into fruition?
Okay, so then now you're gonna make me cry.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay,
but
now you're gonna make me cry.
It's such an important question, because and the same thing for Daryl. I want to make sure that they understand, like, kind of just take a little pause, because it is important to see it, to celebrate all of this, and to also to look at all this from a little note on a piece of paper to seeing where it is now.
Well, you know, I got one more night to go.
Yeah.
So you should be asking me this tomorrow. Just, you know, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of hands, and nothing's ever smooth. But, you know, we learn every year. I look back on our first regular Festivals of Aloha, which was 3 years ago. And what went wrong that year, we fixed it. Brought it the next year. So every year we've been able to learn. And how wonderful that when things work correctly, we go, oh, that's because we learned that 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So yay. And I'm sure after we have our post meeting, after this Festivals of Aloha is over, I'm sure there's going to be things that we said, okay, that didn't work very well. Mm-hmm. But that just gives us the opportunity to make sure we take care of that, to make sure it's better next year. So I think every year we'll be getting better and better. For me, that feels so good. It's so good. And with all of this, I actually have 3 cultural ambassadors, Hawaiian cultural ambassadors below me as my team. And I see them learning. I see them loving the culture. They are. I have one of my Hawaiian cultural ambassadors is actually a kumu of Olelo. Mm. I have another Hawaiian cultural ambassador that is a kumu hula. And my other one, all her children are in Hawaiian immersion. Wow. So they're very steeped in the culture as well, in their own fields. But the love of the Hawaiian culture and sharing it, kahi'ao, yeah? Mm-hmm. To give without expecting anything in return. For me, when I see this, that the next generation below me can learn, and I'm a part of that. And when I'm gone, when I retire, 'cause I'm in my 60s already. You know, I'm not going to be here a couple more years. But how wonderful to know that this legacy that we're building now is going to continue, and that the Four Seasons is behind all of this, that they're saying, yes, let's do this. And so we have our people in place. We're teaching, and the younger generation is learning.
Yeah.
And I know how wonderful that when I do leave, when I do retire, that what we've built here at the Four Seasons is going to continue.
Yeah.
And it's only going to keep getting better and better. So very happy. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think you touched upon a very important point, is making sure that the legacy continues on.
Yes.
And making sure you also have the right people in place. Like for yourself, you have your 3 ambassadors already, who you're allowing them to learn how to continue on this legacy and continue on perpetuating the culture, especially in their own specific way, to make it unique to them too as well. I think that's important. What have they been taken away from all this Festivals of Aloha and seeing how it all pans out?
I keep hearing hikino auntie, hikino auntie. Because we never know. Same thing. We say this and we're planning for this, and then we get thrown off and we got to do this. But they're always willing. They're always willing when I say, again, we're learning now. Okay, so auntie's not getting mad, but you got to learn from this. This is a learning experience. But where do you think that's coming from?
Yeah.
Because that's what I get from my kumus as well. Yeah. So it's just a matter of teaching them. But I feel like they're so much alike with me in that space that it's all about whatever I can learn.
Yeah.
I want to learn. And so I know that when I teach or when I'm sharing with them, I can see them. I can see their expressions. And the next time around when something happens, I don't have to say anything. They're learning. I see it.
Yeah. And that goes back to like from a culture, from Native Hawaiians too. Like we learn by doing. And we learn by figuring
Get the scoldings in between. Get the scoldings. Yeah.
You got to get it. But that's how you learn.
Exactly. I always tell them, I said, I like when mistakes are made. I said, no, mistakes are not bad. Mistakes are bad if you keep doing it again and again. Yeah. But if you make a mistake, I always say, you're never going to make that mistake again. So make the mistakes. It's okay. That's learning. Now, if you keep making the mistakes, that's another story. We'll talk about that later, right?
Yeah.
But no, I one time, good. Yeah. Very happy with what I've accomplished, I feel like.
Yeah, when you talk about that hikino, I think that's always kind of the mentality that many of us have. It's like you have this idea and you just say, yeah, I can, and then if whatever happens, happens kind of thing, And then you learn, like you mentioned, you learn from that, and you keep getting better and better. But you always come from a place of trying to share, trying to connect to people. I feel like, especially with some of the experiences that I've had here at the Four Seasons, many of the employees here have that. They have this little extension of aloha that they put out to you and make you feel welcomed. And I think that's from what you're mentioning, how you go about making sure that people understand, like you are a representation of the culture here. And so it's so important that you also give out that kind of same energy that you get put out there, of welcoming, of sharing,
right.
Of trying to teach people about the culture and so forth. And I think one question that I did want to ask you is, what is something that you are hoping to accomplish with the Festivals of Aloha within the community?
Well, it's just wonderful that the community has been coming out.
Yeah. I
just wish more and more. I think it's going to happen. I think there was such a buzz last night that people said, I didn't even know that this is what it was here. And then they came, and then everybody was talking about it. And as I was walking down the hallways, people were stopping me. And they're like, I'm so glad I came. I heard that so many times last night because a lot of them said, oh, we heard about it last year, but we didn't know. And people said, oh, you guys got to come. You guys got to come. I think they're now in the position where they're going to be telling everybody else, oh, you guys got to come. Yeah. And so they're anticipating next year already, just like how I am. But for me, I just think the more that we can share is going to get out there. And it's not only just coming for the Festivals of Aloha. Yeah. I think the Festivals of Aloha may be that catalyst that gets people really back into the culture itself, giving them opportunities to know that wherever there's something that our kupuna is out there doing, please go. Go learn and go talk stories. Just passing down things, like I said, from our kupuna that we know our kupunas never learned this from one book. Our kupunas would learn this because they were taught. And maybe not only from their generational line, but from other people that they had talked to. So for me, looking at Festivals of Aloha, I just want this to be the catalyst that will be the point where everybody knows that the culture is alive and well, especially here at the Four Seasons.
You know, and that just shows how much support you have from the executive team here.
Yes, very much
To
so.
allow, for it to be complimentary. When I told my brothers that I was showing them all these videos of all the dances going on, my mom was like, "Oh, where's this going on at?" And they're back on Oahu, and I was like, "Oh, it's over here in Maui." They're like, "Oh, like what's the tickets like?" Oh, it's all complimentary. Like the Four Seasons is hosting the events here. They're like, "Wow,"
Yeah.
like because the fact that you had all these halal come together to put on a show like they did last night at the Hula's the Heartbeat was just amazing.
And you know why that is too? Because all the kumu
Yeah.
that came and shared, they feel the same way. Hula really is the heartbeat. And if you take a look at how our kumu are and how their haumana are, we really feel.
Yeah.
Hula is life. Hula really is the heartbeat. And how wonderful that we can come together in a space, and the word's going to be share.
Yeah.
Just putting it out there and shared. I know that it was a live stream, and it was live streamed last night all over the world. And how wonderful that we're able to touch people wherever they may have been, to see something coming from the small little island of Maui. That this is what we have here, and this is what we're sharing with everybody.
Yeah. One of the things that I overheard, actually when we were saying Hawaii Ponui and kind of like she was asking what's going on. She asked me, and she's like, "Oh, this is an expression of our culture here," and there's a showcase. It was kind of what the halal coming in, and she was just like, it just feels so special in here. For some reason, I feel something in here, and then she was just saying it's just a beautiful feeling.
And can I ask, how did you feel when you heard Hawaii Aloha at the end?
Oh, how can you not feel like
right? That was amazing. It was just like looking out to everybody, and everybody was singing. Oh my goodness! It was. I can't even explain how that felt.
I think that's one of my favorite moments whenever we have gatherings. Especially after like you have an event or you have like a conference and everything, but everybody comes together, and closes with that. I think that is just a powerful way to send people home, because
and a little sad that now we know that it's over for the evening.
Yeah, exactly, right. But it just like, but the fact that we can all just stand together in that special moment to appreciate who we are, appreciate what we just experienced together.
Right, because everybody's holding hands, whether you knew the person next to you or not. Everybody's holding hands in like solidarity. And saying, this is it. This is the aloha that we share.
And I know we always talk about aloha, and I think because it's such an impactful word that we can express to many people, not only through words but also through actions and feelings. Again, can you just share a little bit more about what does aloha mean to you?
Everybody use aloha in a context of maybe saying hello. Or goodbye. And I always like to tell people, when we use the word aloha, and they'll use it because they're leaving, I said, in actuality, ahui ho is what we say, because that's until we meet again, right? So it's open-ended. That means I want to see you again. If you're using aloha as like a goodbye, that's just too done, right? Just goodbye. But when we talk about aloha in its context, if you know what it means, hello is actually on the bottom, because you have kindness, so important, the love, the sharing, the caring, all those things is what aloha stands for. And I always tell people, don't be afraid to ever use the word aloha. I know that when I teach our Embark class here at the Four Seasons, it's a class where new employees come, and we kind of immerse them in everything that's happening, all the different departments here at the Four Seasons. And my portion of it, I talk about aloha. Don't be afraid to use the word, because and a lot of them say, "Oh, but Auntie, I'm not Hawaiian." And I've told you this one before, but Auntie, I'm not Hawaiian. And I always say, it has nothing to do with you being Hawaiian or not, because I think in other nationalities, they might have their own word for the word aloha. But aloha is that feeling that you want to share, you want to, kindness and everything. How you treat people because that's how you want to be treated yourself. And so aloha to me is a very important word, and I don't think it has anything to do with I have to be Hawaiian to use or to share aloha. I think it has to do with how you feel in here and how you want to perceive and share it with others.
Yeah.
That's aloha.